No business is easy. Literally, I've never found an easy business. No business is easy. And you need people on your team who are willing to endure when times get tough. How can they demonstrate to you that they have that experience and they've had to have that resilience to work through challenges? And how do they respond in those situations? Do they close up? Do they get lazy? Do they procrastinate and do things that are just like not the types of things? Or are they open and willing to ask for help and to seek support from other team members? There are different phases of a business. When you're in the early phase, you're in the first year or two or three, and you need to be able to run through walls, but you need everybody to run through walls all the time because there's so many different things happening. What I also do differently now than I did before is I don't try to force team camaraderie or the relationships to the idea of building the teams. I'm letting the teams actually determine what they want to get out of their time at the company, and it's working wonderfully.
Alex, welcome to the show, my man. I can't wait to get into the conversation today because we will be talking about the future of work, innovation, and how can we actually all navigate the challenges in the business landscape. And I am really thrilled to have you today because the conversation that we're going to have today is about talent acquisition, your journey as an entrepreneur, the ups and downs of being a leader, and what does that actually mean for executives and entrepreneurs that are listening to this, and talking about that stepping stone towards your success from building, managing, and just going to a different industry, and from launching and scaling luxury brands specifically and generating 100 million in retail sales. Not
Yep.
just that, you're on Shark Tank.
I
And
was. Yes.
yeah, that's pretty freaking awesome. And
Yeah.
behind
Cool.
all the favorite brands that you worked with, Amazon recognized you for being the innovator of the year. That's also awesome,
That's
dude.
right.
And then there's another show. What's the other show called other than Shark Tank?
Well, it's not a business show, but I was also on Wheel of Fortune.
That's awesome, dude. That is
Yeah.
awesome. That is
Yeah. You
so
can
cool.
thank my wife for that one.
And going into your story, man, here in a second, you have ventured off to a different journey based on your career as a builder, driver. You completely shifted and got into this world of talent acquisition,
Yep.
which the main of the website and the company, gottalent.com, and it's specifically spelled GOTTTLNT.com, aiming to revolutionize how companies hire by connecting them with the best global talent efficiently
Yep.
and cost effectively. This is really important because hiring is really difficult in today's world and finding a talent. And I can't wait to talk to you about that. And if you thought
Yep.
his journey just couldn't get more interesting, it is going to get really interesting by the end of this because this is going to be a great conversation. So welcome to the show, Alex.
Thanks for having me. It's really good to be here and chat with you, Hassan.
Absolutely, man. I want you to take me through the journey, man. The journey where you begun and take me through the transitions you as an entrepreneur, as a builder, to where you got today, and we'll take it from there.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm originally from Australia. Now live in Los Angeles with my wife and two beautiful kids. But a long time before that, I started my entrepreneurial journey back when I was in school. I mean, even when I was 12 years old, I was running entrepreneurial ventures, always trying to hustle a new deal or a new way to earn some money and to get ahead and to be creative. And so I've been doing different types of entrepreneurial ventures probably since I was 12 years old. With the first like true business that I started when I was in high school, I launched a website and graphic design company. This is back in like 1999, 2000. So was quite progressive at the time. .com was just coming up and was, earning a healthy living while still in high school to the envy of some of my friends. And then just got the bug, I was always scheming and trying to come up with different things and, buying products, flipping them and all sorts of different things. And that ultimately led me to an opportunity to come to the United States to run sales and marketing for an Australian startup called EcoSmart, which was really what catapulted my career. I mean, to come to the US in a very entrepreneurial venture, I was the number two person in the US business and then build that business. Ultimately, I became the CEO and spent many years there building that company. Along the way, I helped co-found the US side of another luxury brand in the furniture space. That company has now gone to many great successes. And then after several years of running either alongside other teams or being a hired gun, so to speak, I was, ready to go out and start my own venture. And so about 5 or 6 years ago, I launched a company called Prep Deck, which was a product that I actually invented, kitchen accessory, a recipe prep system that had never been existed before and was really designed to solve my own needs at home. And I took that business and basically went through sort of like every different part of the life cycle of being an entrepreneur you could imagine. From having the sort of aha moment when I came up with the product idea, I still remember sketching it on my iPad at the time and then like showing my wife, like, look, I came up with this thing. I think this is a thing. And she's like, what is this? Like, what are you talking about? And sort of going through that like initial, hey, this is something completely brand new. And then diving into that and sort of figuring out, okay, well, now I've got an idea, is this something I really want to pursue, and doing the research into the market and trying to figure it out and block out some of the noise and just say like, hey, I think this is a good idea. And I don't want to be walking down the aisles of Target or a retail store 15 years from now, see my idea and go, oh, I had that idea, but I didn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
So I really dove headfirst into it. And I got to a point where I was like, I was putting a bit of money into it. I started, working with an industrial designer, trying to bring it to actually something. And then it was like, well, this is going to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to bring to market. And I don't really know if anyone is going to buy it. So how about we go the opposite way and we use this like interesting crowdfunding ideas that I had seen, Kickstarter, Indiegogo. And so I decided, well, I'm going to crowdfund it. And then if no one buys it, then it's not a good idea. And so I won't spend any more time or money on it. And if people buy it, then I've got signal and I can go deeper. And so
Exactly.
I built and ran this crowdfunding campaign, but I treated it as like a squeeze point, like a funnel. It forced me to think through branding, think through position, think through message, think through how we're going to talk about it. And then once we do, will people pay actual money for it? Because the crowdfunding model is consumers buy it and they might not receive it for 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 2 years, even while you go and actually produce it. So they're even more convinced that it's a true and valid idea. And so I was scrappy, really scrappy to get that launched. Like the original product that we used in the photography was 3D printed and painted. Like it was done in such a scrappy way to really validate the concept. And we
Hmm.
ended up doing over $1 million in that crowdfunding campaign. All of a sudden, it's like, well, this is maybe more than an idea. This is maybe really something. And so I took that business. I spent, the next 4 or 5 years investing in it, creating a market for it, went through production in China, tons of challenges along the way, built it into a direct-to-consumer brand that got up towards a $10 million run rate. We did, as you mentioned, win Amazon's Innovator of the Year one year, which was incredible. We rode all of the waves through COVID. And in many ways, that was a huge catalyst for the business because in 2020, when the economy started to shut down, there was basically not a better market that you could be in than a product that you bought on the internet that helped you cook at home. And
Oh
so
my
we
God.
exploded. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
unexpected. I really thought, I mean, that was only into our second year, and I was like, oh, this thing's going to put us out of business. And it did the complete opposite. We sold through all our stock in 2 weeks. We couldn't get enough inventory back in. We 6x the business. It was really an incredible catalyst for the business during a challenging time in many, many ways. And then we kept pushing through the cycle. And one of my dreams as an entrepreneur, especially coming to America and then seeing, the ways in which so many businesses had grown and all these cool and fun ways to do that, was to apply to and try to get on to Shark Tank. And I actually applied even during the crowdfunding campaign. And after 4 years, we finally got accepted and went through the process and then ultimately taped and ultimately aired the Shark Tank episode, which was an incredible experience and a life goal that I had wanted to do and something that still I get to benefit from today. We do a lot of business with other Shark Tank companies now. I get a lot of notoriety as being a part of that. And then ultimately continue to build the business, and then last year struck a partnership with a very large and successful kitchenware brand based in New York. And we partnered together with them in a way where they'll take over and continue to run and grow the business, which has allowed me to step back and pursue other business opportunities, which I'm now working on in the talent and people acquisition space and all sorts of fun and interesting things we're doing there. So yeah, that's kind of what got me to where we are today.
I mean, it's like right timing. It's like different things that you have done, this right timing and getting that funding at the right time, right when the whole thing shut down. Right timing. That's just amazing. And I like when you said before you went and spent money and created the product, this is where a lot of entrepreneurs or wanting to be an entrepreneur go and try to spend a lot of money on creating the product or service or whatever that is before seeing if anyone actually is going to buy it.
Yep.
And you
It
went and
happens all the time. It happens in products, it happens in businesses, agencies, services. You overshoot the mark without getting enough validation back from your customer. And I mean, I hear crazy stories about founders working on things for a year or 2 years with no revenue, no customers. And it's like, go get yourself 3 customers and prove that anybody cares about what it is you're trying to do, because they might not. And you got to validate quick. And so physical products are really hard to validate quickly. There's some hacky ways to kind of do it, but you do really have to get to a point where people have to give you dollars and prove that they're willing to spend. In our case, it was $150, on average. That's real validation. That's not like, yeah, I'll reserve one for $10 and maybe buy it in the future. That's not the same. You got to get them to buy. And
yeah,
even when I launched my latest venture, it still had a very prove it out type of approach before doubling down and tripling down into the growth of the company.
man, I love that. Validation is the key. That is awesome. Well, thank you for sharing your journey around that. Now, I want to go into when you pivoted your journey specifically and you made the decision to kind of go into this new venture the last few years. What has influenced you to completely pivot and focus on this new venture that you're doing today?
I had been building and growing consumer brands for 15 years. So I was ready to tackle a different vertical. Like I was onto my third company. Consumer brands are a wonderful business to work on. They're very easy to understand, but they're very challenging to operate. You sort of have a black belt in 6 or 7 different verticals to get a consumer brand to really grow and hum. But I was just ready for another challenge. And what I wanted to do was take things that I had experienced over the last 15 years that were really painful or bugged me, and see if we can find solutions for them and then turn that into a business that can benefit other companies. And so I wanted to really take a turn right at a fork in the road and tackle some of the challenges. And at PrepDeck, it was a mostly bootstrapped. We have investors and then some funding, but not like a venture capital backed type of organization. And so in that business, we had challenges. And I distinctly remember this point in time where along the way, it was like, we were growing revenues massively. The business was, had hundreds of thousands of customers. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, where is all the money going? What is really happening here? And so we spent a lot of time tearing apart the P&L and trying to figure out, where are we overspending? What are some other ways we can tackle some of our verticals? And we saw one of our biggest costs were people. The team that we had working on the business, which is a combination of contractors and full-time hires and agencies, but like people working on the business, was far more than it needed to be. But we certainly needed resources. So we made some changes, really right-sized the business, and then started exploring what would it look like if we were to hire overseas for certain roles in the business that maybe we wouldn't normally think to hire overseas for. So like customer support, we had customer support overseas and for the most part almost always have. And I've used overseas resources for design and development and, some of these other areas. But I was like, what would it look like if we actually had some of our core team overseas? And then the more I thought about it, the more I thought, well, the way we do that today is kind of riddled with issues that are acceptable for the roles and part-time things that we have overseas now. But if we were to have full-time team members overseas, like we can't have that. Like they need to be accessible to us on our time zone, and really feel like part of the team here in the US. So how would we go about that? I basically started to explore what it would look like if we worked with the best talent available in Mexico and Latin America. And could that operate at the same level as talent we would hire in the US? And so again, to this like idea of just like test things, I crawled and walked and ran into the space. And so we would start with one hire, and it was like we were taking a $120,000 position in the US and moving it to, maybe roughly $40,000 in Mexico, but finding talent that was so deeply skilled in this particular vertical that they actually had more skills and operated more efficiently than a position that we needed to change out from the US. And so I would actually say that some of those changes we made in that business are what led to the continued success, but also what led to us finding that ultimate partnership and ability for the brand to now scale out in a meaningful way. So I started to explore these different type of things. And again, this COVID catalyst, right? Like COVID was a catalyst for PrepTech, but COVID was a catalyst for changing work. Everyone started working remote. We didn't need to be in the same spot. So did it really matter to me if the best possible person we could hire was in Austin or Nashville or Miami? Well, what if they're in Mexico City or Guadalajara or Monterrey? Would that matter to us? No, we want the best possible person we can. And if there are geoeconomic benefits because of the region, then yeah, we'd like to benefit from those. And so we started hiring talent in the region, but it was lumpy. It was complicated, and there's, international regulations to consider, and there's just all these other things that made it difficult. But mostly it was difficult to find talent and vet them correctly. So as I started to figure out how to do that, I was like, this is an unlock. This is a key that I think a lot of companies in the US could benefit from if we can make it as easy to hire talent in Mexico and Central America as it would be if you were to hire in the US. And as soon as I had figured that out, I was like, this is the next path I'm going to go down. And again, tested it, ran small launches to, first degree network, and started to build and build and build. And now that's what we do. We help US-based companies access a world of phenomenal talent based in Mexico and Central America. We then make it as easy to hire them as it would be if you were to hire in the US. And now companies are benefiting from being able to bring on maybe 2 or 3 people for the same cost as one in the US, or to support and empower their US-based teams, or to put more dollars to their bottom line, all of which allows them to grow and continue to build their business. So it was sort of like that movement and solving that pain in my own company then led to something where I said, well, look, this is really something that can help a lot of different companies. So I'm going to spend my time there.
You went through the journey, and what you just shared is the problems as a entrepreneur that you went through. And
Yeah.
I see this, you're just a person that looks at problems and looks, how can I solve this effectively, cost effectively?
Yep.
And the journey that you just shared, I bet you a lot of entrepreneurs, founders, executives are experiencing this, the pain that you felt transitioning from that company to having that curiosity that you found to move to this. And you again validated it.
Yeah.
Which is the biggest issue in starting a company. People don't validate it.
Yep. We validated. I mean, I validated it for myself first, and then with the first 5 to 10 customers. And then it was like, all right, now there's proof, right? It's, those customers are growing as well. So it's like, all right, we're talking to them, what worked, what didn't work. Now we can expand even further and expand the circle out. So yeah, but it's also like it's the combination of finding, at least for me, the combination of finding the problem with your ability to successfully solve that problem. Like, is it in your wheelhouse? Like, I might like sports cars and luxury cars, but like, I'm not going to go start a luxury car company. I wouldn't have the first idea how to do it, right? But when you combine it with what you know, with an area that's interesting to you or that you're passionate about, then it becomes easier, right? Like, it becomes like water. It's much more fluid. You're interested in it. You're hearing what customers are saying to you. You're able to make adjustments because you just want to get it better and better and better. And I really felt that. I was like, I have felt the pain as a founder, as an entrepreneur, And I don't want companies to have to feel that pain. I want to help take that pain away. And if we can, even just a little bit, they have a lot of other pain in their businesses as well. We can't solve it all. But, one, two, or 3 points of pain, if I can help, alleviate that for a business owner, it makes a huge difference. And I'm telling you, in many cases, it can be the difference between success and failure, survival or death of a company are these decision points. And I truly believe that what we're doing now is empowering companies to go to their next level, but also in many cases to make sure they can continue to survive and thrive. So when that triggers in me, I can't stop. I have to keep going. I have to keep tackling the next opportunity and the next way to solve those because I believe it in here, because I felt it. It's like I've been there. I know that pain and no one should have to go through that if there's a way to solve it. And that's what keeps us going every day now.
That is awesome. And I think that's what's the definition of an entrepreneur, what you just said, which is awesome, man. Now, pivoting a little bit into taking your approach as an innovator with Amazon, how do you apply this innovative mindset to the hiring process and finding the top A players? You found finding people outside of the States.
Yeah. So we run a very founder first mentality in our business. And what I mean by that is like everything we do, we think back to who it is we're ultimately trying to succeed for. And at the end of the day, that's our client. So whether it's an actual founder, whether it's a hiring manager, we have to in a lot of detail understand what their needs are. And like we get a common question all the time, which is like, well, do you have a pool of talent we can go and access? And it's like, well, we do, but that's not necessarily going to solve your problem. That's just you looking to put a body in a seat. What are you looking for? And so we spend more time than most upfront trying to understand deeply and truly what you're looking for. And then we're matchmakers. And it's a difficult thing to do, but we've structured our pricing and our way of doing business where we're mutually aligned to succeed. So it's sort of try to strike this balance where it's like our client wins, the talent that we're bringing into that organization wins, and then we win. So how do we get that win-win-win, right? So we spend a lot of time understanding the client, but then we spend a lot of time understanding the talent. Our company is called talent. We are nothing without the talent that we're bringing to these organizations. And so it's almost like we go slow to go fast. Like some companies will be out there, they'll be like, well, we'll show you talent in 2 days. And it's like, well, we can show you talent in 1 day. But is that the right talent for you? Or do you want us to go and actually find that person that you're looking for who's going to stay with your organization for years? And that's where we create a big point of difference and why we have, a huge part of our business is referral business, very happy client base, accounts growing all the time because they find the right people. They're impressed by those people. We have an internal thing where we're always trying to wow our clients with talent. And when we do that and we invest those internal processes, it goes slow to go fast, right? We don't end up, of course we have hires that don't work out, but far less often than normal because we've invested in the talent. So sort of the innovation for us there is like, well, we've innovated through pricing and through how we structure our business, which aligns our incentives with the client. And then we've innovated a little bit in how we spend our time to understand the client at a deeper level. And we put ourselves in their shoes. We say, well, would we hire this person if we were? And if the answer is no, we got to keep saying no. And it's very painful for a company and for the individuals that work for us in people acquisition to keep saying no until you find what sometimes seems like a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. But when you do, it's fast and it stays and the clients are happy. So we think about that a lot.
I love that, dude. So just talking about the process that you already found the process, and it's not just about getting the next talent, but it's on both parties because this person needs to resonate with this person and this person needs to resonate with this person. And harmony with the right talent for them to actually stay for a long time is really important, which is...
Yeah, that's exactly right. There's some like misperceptions or misconceptions about hiring talent overseas as well. And we break those down real quick if we have a potential client who is almost thinking, and it's because it's the way it's been done for so many years. It's like you'll hire an agency maybe in the Philippines, you get the next person off the conveyor belt. And if they don't work out, it's like, oh, we've got another person for you, start tomorrow. And it's like, well, that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to help companies build teams. Those teams just happen to be based overseas, near shore, right? And so there's this balance that we're always trying to find, where we're like breaking their initial understanding of how things are done, showing them how it can really be done. And that's why we come back to this like very easy thing to understand. Like we just make it as easy to hire talent, international talent, as it would be if you were hiring US talent.
Mm.
And that talent, when it comes down to it, they think and operate the same as they would in the US. Like someone applying for a role in the US is being very considered about the company they want to go work for. They want to know about the company. They want to know about the benefits. They want to know about the perks. Why? Because they're about to leave somewhere else that they may be already happy with. And so the process has to be the same. The talent also has to be as engaged and interested in the companies that they're going to go to as well.
I love that, man. And, just talking about the same topic, I'm just going to ask the question, man. The misconception of hiring out of seas and virtually and all this other stuff. What do you talk about to the people that say, no, man, I want my team in person. I want everyone in-house. I can't do it. Just can't do it. What do you say to that?
I try not to tell business owners or management teams how to run their company, but I do show them the light of how other successful companies are leveraging remote talent and remote teams, especially international teams. So we'll share stories and examples, and we'll sort of open their mind as to what the possibilities could be. And in many cases, we encourage them to find the position where they would feel comfortable,
Mm,
and for some clients, it's like they have to go through and say, well, what's a back office operation type of position? What's a non-client facing type of position? What's a position where we've got someone on our current team who will be their direct manager, who can train and impart information? But once that company makes that first step and they bring on their first person, the floodgates open. Everything changes at that point because now they've seen the light, they've seen the opportunity, they're interacting with the talent. We see it sometimes, fairly often actually, where a client will open one position to start with. And then when they're in the hiring process and they're meeting talent and they're reviewing these really robust profiles that we put together, they'll open more positions because they're like, oh, we get it now. We see it. We're talking to them. They're having conversations like you and I are having now. And they're like, this is incredibly talented people and can be very valuable to our business and our team. And so it opens up. But companies that are closed off to remote work, even in the US, and closed off to even remote work or hybrid work in the city where they're in, those companies are going to face challenges over time because the trend is for the talent to have some type of flexibility into a remote or hybrid work environment. And so we're just constantly encouraging them and pushing them to open their businesses to this idea, to try it. But I see far fewer of those now. Most companies are really open to they either already have remote teams or they're very open to expanding their team because they need the best talent to work in their company. It doesn't matter where they're based.
No, 100%, dude. I asked you that question is because I have worked with clients that have that misperception or not knowing what's the light. And I'm so happy that you said this because I will send them this exact interview because it's just the right
Yeah.
path of what you just said. It's just an easy because a lot of the clients that I've worked with have that misperception of like hiring outside, more cost effective because they're not at the level of hiring inside. And $120,000 per talent, 180,000, 250,000. I mean, it gets really freaking expensive.
It
So,
adds up really, really quick. What I
so
normally find is like, what is the company, the founder, the management team? What are their concerns? Like, what keeps them up at night about this idea? And if you get into it, there's usually one or two things. So maybe they're worried about security, right? They're like, oh, we get some client information. How do we make? We don't have a system in place yet. There's things like that, and they're very valid considerations whether you're hiring in the US or internationally. And then other times they're just like, well, I don't really know how to manage a remote person. So then they like need some confidence or they're not using internal tools for, streamlined communication. And then in other times they're just like, well, we just love the culture of having people be physically together. How do we achieve that if we have remote teams? And so we guide them and show them examples and ideas of how other companies are sharing their culture with their remote teams and then how they, from time to time bring them together. Like one of the best advantages of working in Mexico or Central America is to most of the US, it's a less than 3 hour flight. So our clients are very often able to bring their talent into the US for company all hands, for trade shows, for events, just like they would if they had someone working in Austin and their office is in Los Angeles. They bring them in for the events once or twice or three times a year. And so now they are part of the culture. And I had a really interesting story from one of our clients a few weeks ago where he was like, it's so interesting how our Mexico team, and they have a team of, I think, 5 or 6 people now, adds to our US culture. And I was like, well, what do you mean by that? And he's like, when they come, they're bringing their style and their flair and their cultural accoutrements almost to the team. And now we're more of a global company, and they're already a global company. They have teams all over the world. And so they were getting their culture improved they weren't having to spend their time imparting their US-based culture to their Mexico-based team. Their Mexico-based team was improving their US-based culture. And
Hmm.
I think like thinking about it this way and being an inclusive and global organization, that to me was very cool.
I love that, dude. Thank you so much for sharing that point. This is a lot of good gold, good nuggets that you just shared, because that's exactly what the clients are thinking about. And the
Yeah.
audience that I have, or the community that I have, this is exactly a lot of the challenges that they faced. And I'm so glad that you shared the different examples. So, based on your experience, Alex, what are the key advantages of tapping into global talent pools, of going consumer and maybe SaaS brands? Because you worked with SaaS brands before. What are the main advantages top of mind?
Yeah, we work with a lot of different types of verticals, consumer brands, agencies, software companies, B2B SaaS, accounting, legal, all sorts of different firms. So, what are some of the advantages? Well, you get to go where the best talent is. And the best person is not maybe by luck within 5 zip code radius of where your office is based or where you happen to live. Some of the other benefits are, there are varying different work cultures and work ethics in different markets around the world. Mexico and Central America are an incredibly hardworking, fun-loving, vibrant talent force. Our region in particular has perfect bilingual talent. So English as fluently as their primary language, which is often Spanish. And then there are tremendous cost benefits. So what we do is we guide our clients to what the market is for a particular talent and what that might look like in both the US and in, let's say, Mexico or somewhere in Central America. And fully burdened comparisons come in at often and as an average of 65 to 70% less than someone equally skilled in the US. So to clarify what we mean by that, in the US, you've got salary, benefits, equipment, payroll taxes. So the fully burdened comp when bringing in talent out of Mexico can be about a third less, which is a really significant difference and a big benefit, because a company they can increase their efficiency. So they can actually bring in multiple people for the same price,
Mm,
or they can increase their margins, which will allow them to reinvest in the business in other ways and continue to grow the organization. And so when we do that and we're dealing with real, true market comps in the region, where we're at is the talent that are coming into the companies that we're helping place them. They're often earning between 5 to 20% more than what they would earn locally, what they're already earning locally at a consumer brand or a CPG brand or a software company or a media agency that they're working at in Mexico City or Monterrey, for example. And so their cost of living, they now have an improved cost of living, an improved living wage, because they're actually earning above what they were earning before. And the
exactly.
client, a US-based business, is also now benefiting. So it's again, it's this like win-win balance. Also, in Central America, the trend is towards hybrid and work from home. The people, the culture, very family-centric people, and to be able to be home and near and around that is very important to them. And so the working conditions are even better. I mean, in Mexico City, it could be a 2 hour commute from where someone lives to the office. That's 4 hours a day. But if they take a position for, let's say, 15% more than they're already earning in their current organization and they get to work from home with a full home setup, that is an incredible improvement in their work-life balance and their ability to invest in the new company that they work for in the US. So yeah, lots of different advantages there.
Thank you so much for sharing all the points of advantages so that the clients and the audience understands what is the exact advantages of having to hire outside and what are the ways to do that? What are the possibilities? And it's a win-win situation, which you just said, which is awesome. Now,
I mean, who doesn't want the best people working in their business, right? If you can get the best people working in your business and you can do it in an economic way, that as a business owner is a no-brainer.
that's
And that's
awesome.
what
That is awesome. With the future of work, man, like in where we're going in today's world, what are we leaning towards remodels? Like, what are the strategies do you recommend for managing and integrating remote teams effectively? What have you seen that work in your journey working with different companies and different sectors to basically, guide that?
Yeah, the future of work. We think a lot about this. So to the point of integrating teams and making them feel and be part of the organization,
Yes.
our number one piece of advice is treat your remote LATAM team in the exact same way you would treat a US-based team, and you got to do things a little bit differently. But like, for example, using team communication tools like Slack or Teams is a great starting point. Being sure to include your remote team in events physically if you can, and in an alternate way if that isn't possible for them to be physically there. So for example, let's say you were buying your team lunch. So you make it so that we're having a team lunch and send that dollar amount off to your remote team members so they can actually participate even in a remote capacity. Dial them in any point in times that you can. Ask them for input, bring them in as part of the core team. Celebrate little things. So like we suggest, a small gift package which can be sent for, $30 on your remote team's birthday makes a huge difference, makes them feel, a part of the organization, because maybe in the office, you're doing a cake for someone's birthday. So these type of things they're small. Sending swag, like if you have company swag, like send the care package down, have them, really feel and be a part of the team. Like these are small, simple, easy things, but you're integrating your team. They are now representing your organization, and I highly recommend that those things are done at all times.
That
To
is
the
awesome.
future of work, how are things going to change and all of that? I think we encourage our clients to learn about and leverage, new tools that can empower their team, like AI. We provide AI subscriptions to all our team members on things like ChatGPT, because the more they're empowered, the better for the organization, the happier the client is. So, we tend to run towards these type of things than away from them. I think we all can all agree that people are going to be contributing to the growth of organizations for a long, long time. If they can increase their productivity and their knowledge and speed of knowledge through some tools, then, we're all for that.
What you just said about the swag, I see a lot of employees. I don't see it often now, but I used to see it back in the day where when Google would hire someone and then they would post it on LinkedIn with the hat and the box. That's really cool, man. That's really cool. Thank you for sharing that. And talking about the future of work, what are the hiring trends in your industry? What is the prediction? Like, where are we going with this, man? I mean, talent is not easy to find, and it takes time, it takes dedication, it takes commitment, it takes two people. Uh, what are the trends that you see and predictions that you might have in the upcoming years?
Well, I mean, we use AI tools and resources to help improve our talent acquisition processes.
Okay.
Anytime we can improve, we want to use those tools. I think a risk is if it's thought that talent acquisition will just go on autopilot, it's not going to be the case. In fact, if it's not handled correctly, it actually causes more problems. And if you think
Okay.
about even a basic tool like LinkedIn, allowing it to be so simple for people to apply for a position, we see positions sometimes with over 1,000 applicants. And that's inefficient recommendation engines suggesting that someone just does a one-click apply. And that's risky. That's technology creating a blockage and slowing the process down, not actually improving it.
I could believe
Um,
that.
yeah, and it's interesting. We work with so many different clients. They all have different perspectives. We hire the same role across different clients, and you'd be shocked at just all what can almost be the same job description, which is the same baseline that a recommendation engine is going to use, but how drastically different the client's goals are and how drastically different the correct fit for them is. So again, I think like using tools, and we have our own tools and we're investing in tools. We're very bullish about doing things that can improve our endpoint goal for our clients. But you got to be careful because right now, many of them are not ready. And we're just selective about which ones we do. But like, for example, we are interviewing thousands of people a month, right?
Yeah.
And we use a wonderful interview-centric AI note taker during those interview processes. So not a regular AI note taker, but specifically an AI note taker. Specifically an interview AI note taker. Now, what does that do for us? Well, that allows our talent acquisition professionals to be extremely focused in the interview, look for and pay attention to the non-verbal signals as part of their hiring process. And then their post-interview work has now been consolidated down by they're maybe saving 2/3 of the time because they're getting the right outputs thanks to AI from an actual conversation that they've had. And now they use that to improve their workflow. So we become more efficient,
That's
right?
awesome. That is awesome.
Would I let AI strictly interview a candidate and make that decision right now? No, I wouldn't. It's not ready. And there's too many nuances that it is not able to determine. But can it empower our team? And maybe now they're able to double or triple their efficiency. More of that. Bring more of that on, because the more clients we can keep happy, the more we're fulfilling our mission.
100%. And it's a little sometimes about speed. Speed is everything sometimes. And if it could help you speed up the
We don't want
process,
to be slow.
yeah,
Yeah, we don't want to be slow. The
no,
quicker you can get to the end point, the happier everybody is in the process, without a doubt.
100%. Now, based on your experience with your journey as an entrepreneur, working in different fields and going through the whole process, could you share some insights on building teams that are resilient or innovative or aligned with the brand or vision based on your experience and basically building teams together?
Yeah, so specifically to the teams that I've built over the years, I think I've gotten better and better and better at knowing what I need for a particular business to succeed and the importance of those people. And I've gotten really, really good at saying no, really good at saying no. Like I say no 10 times more now than I used to. And I think that comes with experience and learning and mistakes and mishires, and all those things happen along the way. But I'm always looking for a alignment. Like the skill side of hiring is, at least for me now, relatively easy. Like, you can dive into it, you can ask questions, you can confirm whether or not you believe that they were the contributing factor in X, Y, or Z that was claimed as part of their resume or portfolio. But what about the intangible things that they can't describe, like grit or passion to solve problems? Because no business is easy. Literally, I've never found an easy business. No business is easy. And you need people on your team who are willing to endure when times get tough. And
Yeah.
so how can they demonstrate to you that they have that experience and they've had to have that resilience to work through challenges? And how do they respond in those situations? Do they close up? Do they get lazy? Do they procrastinate and do things that are just like not the types of things? Or are they open and willing to ask for help and to seek support from other team members? And can they give examples of when they've done that? And these are like, there are different phases of a business, but when you're in the early phase, you're in the first year or two or three, and you need to be able to run through walls, but you need everybody to run through walls all the time because there's so many different things happening. So I really look for that and think that that's important. And then what I also do differently now than I did before is I don't try to force team camaraderie or the relationships. I'm thinking about it during the hiring process. Like I'm conscious of, will this person fit in our team?
Yeah.
Sort of the old like airport test, right? Like if you
Exactly.
miss your flight, are you happy to sit with this person for 3 hours and, have a drink with them or a dinner or a chat? Like, of course, I'm thinking through that type of thing, but I can't think through every variable of that for every person on our team. So I do a couple of things. One, I get like a broad feel for will it fit? Will they fit with the team? And then I let the team lead that process. Like I don't try to come with a heavy hand on building culture. I give the team all the empowerment and the resources to build the culture that they want to have in the organization. And in this company in particular, it's wonderful. You can see it, you can feel it. I don't say anything, and they're already running different activities and starting all these different, conversations and topics and it just builds and builds and builds. So it's sort of like to the idea of building the teams, I'm letting the teams actually determine what they want to get out of their time at the company, and it's working wonderfully.
I love that, dude. Thank you so much for sharing that, dude. That's a lot of different points. Sometimes you got to let it grow and let it be.
You got to let it grow. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
and it takes
Have a
time.
vision for what you want for the business, but that vision has to be built by the people that are part of the company without a doubt.
Talking about cost-effective hiring strategies, I mean, there's no question of just basically hiring outside for cost effectiveness. Is that something that you're going towards and seeing, finding the top talent? There is talent in the States, but there's actually more talent that you could find cost effectively based on the stage of the company and where the company's going. Is that right?
Yeah, there's, horses for courses, right? So in a business, you're determining which roles make sense to have in the US and which roles make sense to be supplemented near shore, and how does that total equation lead to success for your business? I don't know a business that, other than a not-for-profit that doesn't want to run profitably ultimately or extend their invested capital. So it's about finding the balance and selecting the roles that should be US based and the roles that should be perhaps explored, what global talent might look like.
100%. And, I was talking to someone that does like taxes and financial planning that was a guest of the podcast. And, they were talking about how many companies would go and take the shot of hiring the talent in the States. And it was not the right decision to make because of how much they cost. And, sometimes it would make sense and sometimes it doesn't. What you're saying, you can find a talent that is more cost effective so that you could save a little bit of money and spend that more on other places to grow the company, if it's sales,
Of course.
marketing.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So,
Okay.
and there's a little discussion that can come up, right? Like, well, are you moving jobs away from the US? And it's like, well, it's a global economy now. We've been a global ecosystem for a very long time now. And in many cases, what will happen is by a company hiring intelligently and accessing the best possible resources they can through global talent and through efficiency tools like AI, they will actually be able to build a bigger business, a more successful business that hires more people in the US. So you'll see that there's that choice that companies need to go through to find which hires make sense in from a global point of view and which don't. And I'm constantly surprised. Like, we see, of course, entry-level positions are hired overseas all the time. And, positions that get extremely expensive, like software developers, right? Like, sometimes $200 or $300 an hour in the US, and a company can't afford that. It's just, that means that their option is to not have that and hold their business back. But they could find someone equally as skilled for $50 an hour or $55 an hour compared to 200, 250, 300. Now they can invest, they can build that tech stack, they can actually go and acquire more customers, drive more revenue, and reinvest back in their business.
I
So
love
those
that.
positions are happening all the time. Where we succeed is sort of also in between that, where it's like core contributing positions in marketing or sales or finance, supply chain operations. And like we see clients even hiring, vice president level positions. And the reason they're open to do that is they don't care as long as they get the best talent. And so if they then get the economic benefit, then that makes a difference to them. Of course, some positions are done intentionally to make sure there's an economic benefit to the client. But in other cases, they're like, we don't care. Just bring us the best possible talent. And if that person happens to have, been the CFO for Vans in Mexico, great. they're pumped about that.
That's awesome. I love that, dude. That is so cool that you said that because there's so many residents and the way you just said it, it's just gold. And dude, I just can't wait to share this with some of the clients, just like to just tease them a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, for com
I'm glad we got to go through these.
for companies that are looking to explore global hiring for the first time, what practical first steps would you recommend them?
Okay. The number one step that I recommend for companies is you got to know what you want. You'd be shocked how many clients we talk to who are like, oh, we want to open a position for XYZ. And they don't have a job description. They don't even have a clear picture about what the person will do. That's problematic. And as a business person, and also someone that's going to help you build your team, my advice is to step back, turn off your email, turn off your phone, and just really focus on what do you actually need that person for, and to ask yourself hard questions. Do we even need this person? Or is it like we're just trying to get a project done? Okay, a project can be done by a contractor. It doesn't have to be someone that you hire into your business. And so thinking through these things, and we help companies do it all the time. Like we're a really good sounding board and strategist partner in that regard. But you got to know what you want. And then if once you know that, then you talk to us and you say, I'm looking for XYZ. What's the market like for this type of person? What can I expect? What are the comp ranges? What type of background might they have? And see then if it's a fit in the region. And if it is, then we can help you find that person. Starts with knowing exactly what you want, skipping ahead, imagining 30 days from now, you have the person sitting in the seat, who's managing them, what are they doing, how are they contributing in a positive way to your business? Is this a, reasonably long-term hire for you? And that will crystallize the process. And you'll then know when you meet someone that isn't a fit, because you know what a fit should be. And so then your hiring process also is faster and you're less distracted from your business while you're in a hiring process.
What is required for you to find the areas of responsibility for this person when they come in? What are they required to do on a daily basis? But also, what is the responsibility for them to
Yep.
become a high performer? And
Yep.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. That is something that is so, so important. So many companies do not have the position clearly defined for many different reasons, of course. As they're growing, they're trying to innovate and trying to change, but it's not defined for that specific, let's say, quarter.
Yep.
That
Yep.
specific.
I totally agree with that.
So
And if you
thank you
put in
so
that
much.
time up front, you're going to allocate your resources correctly. So put the time in up front. It's actually not that much time, but you might determine you don't even need to make a hire, which great. You will one
Exactly.
day. You might not need to today.
That is awesome, man. And going back to the end of our conversation today, when choosing a platform or service for hiring, what key factors should companies consider to ensure that they find the best match for their best needs?
You want to look to their track record. So do they have success, hiring talent in your vertical or in the type of roles that you're looking for? I think that's really important. Track record will speak volumes to the likely future outcome. You want to understand their process. So there are a few different business models within international talent. There's agencies, there's BPOs, there's direct hire, there's staffing solutions. So just really understand your options, understand your cost structure. We run a very transparent model where we believe it's important that there's a transparency between the client and what each individual candidate is earning. We even have a 0% markup on salary option, which is rare in international hiring. So you just really want to understand the process, ask for references or introductions if you can, and just get to a point of comfort, where you feel that the company's going to bring you that talent and support you once you bring that person into your business as well.
I love that, man. One of the things I really wanted to ask you, based on your experience with Shark Tank and different journeys that you took, how did you basically apply those experiences and what did it teach you? It's actually more, what did it teach you in risk-taking, decision-making, and business strategy overall by being a part of that journey, being on Shark Tank, being on this show, doing that? What did it teach you as an entrepreneur and as a leader?
I mean, so many different things. One of the things is you've got to be comfortable being uncomfortable, to put yourself into situations that are not normal and not common for you. I'm not afraid of those things, so I tend to run towards them because I know that even if I mess it up or it doesn't work out, the lessons that you're going to learn from it are enormous. But I do think a lot of people experience a lesson, but don't learn from it. And I think that that's something that I do really well. I learn from my experiences and I do things differently moving forward. And then the outcomes of those things are usually exponentially more. So I think it's taking the lesson on the chin and then knowing when to duck next time because you knew the right hook is coming. And so in each business that I have entered into or founded, always navigating what I have learned from my past experiences to find the next best path to ultimately have that business succeed.
Man, thank you so much for your time today. I mean, we talked about so many different topics, your journey. We talked
It's a pleasure,
about
man.
talked about Shark Tank, you being on Shark Tank, talked about the future of work and the global talent. We talked about work and talent management. We talked the trends and predictions of hiring. We talked about building successful teams and strategies specifically. What are the cost-effective strategies that, based on
Yep.
your experience, that worked, man? Practical advice for companies, specifically around talent and then the hiring platform. So this was an awesome conversation. I loved it so much, man. Thank you so much for being on the show. Where can people find you and how could they connect with you?
So I'm on Twitter, but I don't do a lot on there, but I am there. So you can find me there. You can also find me on LinkedIn. So linkedin.com, whatever. So just look me up, Alexander Eburne or /A Eburne. And then our website is gottalent.com. So GOT and then TLNT.com. Please reach out, especially add me on LinkedIn and love to talk to anyone who's interested.
That's awesome, man. Thank you so much for the nuggets and the storytelling. And it's, you know what I like, man? I like to talk to people that have experienced the problem themselves and built companies off of those problems. And they know the pain of talent acquisition and they find a solution. And not just find a solution, but find a cost-effective solution
Yeah.
to actually scale. So thank you so much, man,
Yep.
for this.
It's a pleasure. Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
And that brings us to a close of another episode on the Hassan Bash Show. Thank you for dedicating time to your growth and progress with us today. Each episode is a step toward not just reaching, but exceeding your potential. To ensure you never miss out on another episode or these insights, subscribe to the podcast. For a deeper dive and exclusive content that furthers your journey, sign up for our newsletter at hassanbash.com. That's HASSANBASH.com. And for a continuous flow of inspiration, make sure to follow us across our socials. Your support through sharing our podcast can inspire and empower others in their journey of progress. So let's build a community of growth together. Until our paths cross again, remember every day is an opportunity to learn, to grow, and move forward. Stay curious, stay inspired, and above all, keep progressing. I'm Hassan signing off. Here's to your journey of endless growth.